So this is what I ask you. In this overthrow, you don't even have to paint your house red, white, and blue. You don't have to put Make America Great Again on your yard. You don't have to do any of that. What I need you to do is refuse to let the enemy have this generation. There's so many people that don't need to go to hell, especially in China. There's so many believers in China and Iran now. It's blowing up. There's so many believers. I know pastors in Russia, it's blowing up. In the Middle East, Muslims are having Jesus appear to them all the time. I know people that's happened to. I know people that went into a coma that were ready to turn their kids over because they became Christians. Went into a coma as God judging him. He met Jesus while he was in the coma. Jesus taught him the whole Bible. When he came out, he was a Christian of the coma. And he tells all his kids. He goes, I'm a real Christian because I had Jesus himself teach me. You just had somebody teach you. He said, I had Jesus teach me. He can quote the whole Bible from a coma. And they're supposed to report their family members if they turn to Christianity. And they're supposed to be turned over to the governments. Okay, so there's all this stuff happening around you. So in overthrow, from now on, you discern what God is saying to you. And don't filter it through the religious thinking you've been trained under. God has taken the limitations off you. So whatever you say, whatever you permit will be permitted. Whatever you bind will be bound. Whatever you loose will be loosed. That's it. Jesus didn't explain it. He didn't have to. He said, I give you all authority. In my name, drive out devils. Trample on serpents and scorpions. And have power over all the enemy. He didn't even flinch. He wasn't even worried. God doesn't worry about us draining heaven by asking too much. If you were in heaven and you were shown the lives of all my friends, I have friends that I haven't even talked to. I was shown everything about them and how they would end up. Some of them I was sent back for, but they didn't listen to me. Can you imagine this? I was sent back from the dead for people that I was sent to talk to. The first couple were my friends. There were 3 of them. The first one actually picked me up from the operation. They had to wheel me out in a wheelchair. I was so out of it. And it took me weeks to recover. But I told him everything that Jesus told me to tell him. And he didn't listen to me. And everything that I told him would happen to him, but it didn't have to. Now, if you read my first book, the bottom line was Jesus showed me that because he was not walking with God the way he should be, and he wasn't praying in the Spirit, that the Spirit wasn't able to get over to him the truth. Because the Spirit only leads you into the truth. He is the Spirit of truth. Well, that word, if you look it up, it's more used in Greek thought as reality. So the Spirit of reality leads you into all reality. So facts that you see might not be reality. Facts might be wrong. So that's why science can be wrong, because it's observation. So you gather a bunch of data, and you can interpolate and extrapolate. Don't worry about it. But you can take data, and you can go backwards or forwards and predict. And through mathematics, you can draw and predict things. But what if God is not in that data? What if Satan is actually interjecting things into you and steering you off? What if he's the one that's skewing your numbers so that you fall short? So science isn't always right, because science is observation, but what they observe might not be the truth. It's a fact. So today you're suffering in your body. That's a fact, but that's not the truth. Jesus said, by his stripes I'm healed. That's what he told me. He said, you're healed. And I'll never tell him that it was his fault that I stayed sick. You won't do it. I dare you to try. The angels will actually step out of the way because they know something's going to happen. You don't talk to Jesus like that. If you tell him, I told a demon to leave and it didn't go, he says, my name is enough. He said, I'm not going back and doing that again. my blood was enough. My stripes on my back were enough. He's already reached the bottom of the barrel for you. Bought it all. That is the truth. So in this day that we live in, you have to understand that you are the authority on the earth. And that whatever you say goes. You can prevent. You've already done it. Do you realize the reason why it's happening the way it is because people prayed? It's the only reason. We've actually been given mercy and grace. It's undefinable. Right now, I know because I know people in the government, things are being held back at an alarming rate. Nothing is getting through. And I know people that work in the intelligence agencies, they pray in tongues. Their whole group is exposing cell groups, and they have walls full of blank faces. They don't even have names on some of them. They're saying, Lord, show us what the name is, who this face is here. And they're praying in tongues. This isn't made up. I know these people. And they're praying in tongues. They're having Bible studies. They're wanting to find out who our enemies are. They want to do their job, and they want the Spirit of God to help them. So you can understand how it could be deceiving to get yourself so wrapped up in the end time scenario that you're just waiting to use your ammo and your beans and your rice. And what it does is it stalls you. Because he's not coming back until the harvest comes in, which means the Antichrist will not pop up while we're here. Now, I know that. He can't come into power on our watch. He's not been able to do it yet. And yet all these men, they even added up to 666. From Nero. You've seen all that calculation. They were all the Antichrist. Oh boy. See what I mean? Every generation has an Antichrist in the womb. Because Satan is ready to take over when he's given the opportunity. But as long as the church is here and we have the keys, we are able to stop him so that the harvest will come in. So do you understand that Jesus is not going to come back because the Father will not tell him to come back because he's the Lord of the harvest. So he's waiting for workers to go into the field and bring in the harvest. So you should be funding people that are doing that. But you can't because of it's economically not possible for you to do that. Okay, but you always say if I could, I would. But here's what I did. I broke the back of poverty when I started to take what was mine and give it and go without. But don't give to me. You only give to my ministry if God tells you to. And I don't want anybody giving unless they're supposed to. That's why I never ask for money. I give people the opportunity to give because it's godly to do that. I can't rob you of that privilege. You've got to give. You've got to give into good, solid ministries. What I'm trying to tell you is this. I'm talking about you. I'm not talking about you giving to me. I'm talking about you giving to others and helping others. You've got to break that cycle. Now, how it's rigged is when you choose to depart from your agenda and let God help you to sow. You sow into somebody. You invest in someone else. And I always do it with people that can't pay me back. And I give to people that don't even need the money. I mean, think about this. All the book proceeds, all the royalties, last year was $250,000. It's all in my name. But I told my tax people and the IRS know that I'm giving that all to Warrior Notes. But I don't have any income. So I'm being told by God to invest in something. That's why I don't think anybody should take my royalties from me. I don't think anybody should make money off of mine, because I'm not. It's a gift. That's for you. Okay, but do you understand that you can do the same thing? If you believe in something, you should give into it. I believe in what I'm doing, but I give to people that don't need the money. But God tells me to do it because they're doing something for God. Do you understand? It's God directs it. So in heaven, I saw that these individuals, I saw that if they yielded to the Spirit, that the Spirit of God would not allow them to lose money. And that this individual was a millionaire already. And he wept when I bought him dinner, because when I discerned who he really was when I was in heaven, then we were friends, but I really discerned, and I kept ministering to him. I said, you got to pray in tongues more. You got to pray in the Spirit. The Spirit showed me that he wants to use you as a distribution center. He wants you to help people. He goes, well, I'm already doing that. I go, well, I'm going to buy your lunch for you. And he started crying. He says, no one's ever bought me lunch. He was 21 years old. He was worth $30 million. He's worth way more than that now. But the thing of it is I told him about something that was going to happen to him that had to do with court, being sued and things. Well, I tried to warn him so that he wouldn't get caught in it, that he needs to pray in tongues more. Well, he never did it. And then I just was reading, the actual person that sued him wrote a book. And I just saw that, and he mentions their names. I'm like, oh my God. The Lord never had that planned. Is everybody catch what I just said? I saw this in heaven. And I can tell you the names. And you can look up in the book and see this. Jesus showed this to me years before it happened. I had another lady. There was a friend of mine. She would never tell me how she was not married, but she had a baby. She would not say anything. I didn't know that it was somebody in the leadership of my church that had impregnated her. So she's trying to protect that person. And they're all big boys now. You would know who they are. She would never tell me. And I was with her and I talked to her. I know I'm getting real here. And it's really risky for me to tell you these things, all this stuff I'm telling you. But I got to tell you something. I'm your friend. And I'm telling you something. It's not always what you think. This girl, Jesus told me, you're going back, you're going to go and tell her that I have forgiven her and that I'm going to make everything new. And I got a huge big plan, and he showed it to me. I could tell you her name. So I called her because we would go out. We were dating. I wasn't married to my wife at the time. I met my wife just shortly after this. I took her out. We sat on a hillside, and I told her what had happened. She started shaking and crying. And I said, and Jesus told me that it's going to be brand new. He's going to give you the father for your child. He's going to give you a good husband that's going to adopt this whole situation, and you're going to be fine. You're a princess. You're God's daughter, and he loves you, and he wants to restore this all back. You know what she said to me? Now, I had just come back from heaven within just a couple weeks. She's shaking, sobbing. She's laying on me, sobbing, getting me soaked, shaking. She said, I know what you're saying is true, but I just can't accept it. I've blown it. She's a beautiful person. I never saw her again. I don't even know what happened to her. I can go on and on and on. I've encountered so many discrepancies because people would not accept God according to his personality that's revealed in his word. He's a righteous judge, but he forgives. And he gives you a new start. You got to understand something. When I was in heaven, Jesus spoke to me as though I had never sinned. I looked into his eyes, and he had no account of my past. It was completely gone. The Father had destroyed it. It was gone. Because he's talking to me, and I'm thinking, he's talking to me as though I have never sinned. So I looked into his eyes to see, because you can tell in a person's eyes, and he did not know anything about my past. And I thought, how is that possible? The file was gone. And I wasn't even as bad as some people. I mean, people would joke with me, if you there's no way you're going to hell. I mean, everybody down there will wonder why you're down there. You're such a good person. But a good person doesn't get you to heaven. I had to be born again. Okay, so do you see this? I've encountered this so many times. Like, so I'm talking to you all right now prophetically. I don't know if you know this, but it's like I've called you up in line and I'm talking to you individually, but I'm talking to you as a group because we don't have time to do this. I'm telling you right now, when you get to heaven, you're going to kick yourself, because I did. There was no past. I wasn't being judged by my past. I was judged by what I did with what I was given. I was in a prison that I made for myself. My limitations were put on me by myself. And nothing in heaven was stopping me. So that's why I talk the way I do. That's why I do what I'm doing. Because I cannot lose. I got to get everybody on the face of this earth that believes in Jesus Christ on the same page so we can start this movement and wrap it up. We need the harvest to come in. And I saw that God is not against people having money. He's against them chasing after it. Covetousness. So when you focus on God and his kingdom and you look at Jesus constantly, money will find you. But if you look at the money, it will evade you and it will continually be away from you. And the closer you get, the further away it goes. And before you know it, you spend your life chasing something that you never get. But if you look into the face of Jesus, everything will be given to you. I know this. I wasn't taught this. And I told Jesus, if I would have known these things that I'm telling you today, what I've told you today is things that I was told by him. And I said, if I would have known these things, I would have done so much more for you. And he asked me if I wanted to go back. But I could see the demonic. And I saw what was hindering me. And I saw that all the people in the world were being influenced by this demonic race, these entities that are out. They can never be redeemed. But they're not incarcerated. They're on the earth. They're earthbound devils. They're terrified. They're on the ground. That's why Jesus said, I give you authority over earthbound devils, serpents and scorpions. There's all kinds of levels. So if I can get a room full of 400 people on the same page with Jesus, where they don't take no for an answer. They say, no, the devil's moving out and I'm moving in. And I'm not taking back territory I already got. And why are you still talking to me, devil? I told you to leave. I can't hear you. I said, I can't hear you. And I start to threaten him. I start to tell him, you know what? I'm going to tell all your dirty secrets. If you don't shut up, I'm going to tell everything on you. And now he doesn't bother me anymore. So when I come to places to speak, every known demon in this whole area came to my room and threw themselves at me. It was embarrassing to them. It was embarrassing for them. They literally were committing suicide, throwing themselves at me. Oh, you got to be kidding. This is it? And then I realized the deliverance is coming to this group of people because these demons knew that it was going to happen. And they were throwing themselves to try to stop me from talking to you. Now, I know that your books reflect good things that you can't conceive right now. But you have to start to build your framework on the Word of God so that in your mind you can start receiving the messages from the Holy Spirit. See, he's the master of the spirit realm. And there is a world that he can take you into where you cannot tell if it's the future or the now. I have to ask my wife when we're in other countries, is this a dream? Because that street up there is this, and this is what's going to happen next. And on Friday, we're going here. Because I'd already dreamt it. My spirit went there. And this is like normal Christianity. I'm not like super spiritual. I'm spiritual. But I'm also able to function in this realm. And And so all I know is Jesus is here standing beside me, and he's telling me to tell you this. This doesn't usually happen this strong, but he's just telling me, tell the people that I've got great plans for them, and they need to get over their past. They need to forgive themselves, and they need to let themselves be loved. He's telling me to tell you that. He's saying, tell them to let me love on you. He says, tell them I want to love on them. I want to show them how much I care. See, the devil has slandered God. And I asked him about this. I asked Jesus, I said, why doesn't the Father step in and defend himself? He said, because I want people to serve me because they want to. I want them to come to me and thank me on their own. I said, but you're being slandered. You're the most misunderstood person on the earth. You're the most misrepresented person on the earth. And Jesus just smiled at me. He said, well, go back and tell the people. So I kind of feel like I have to tell you that all the bad stuff that's happening to you is not God. And God's not even mad at you. He was mad at Jesus. He beat him. He punished him for you. And I'm telling you how Jesus is sad is when we don't recognize that he paid the price, that we're still living small. And people ask me, why is my world so small? And I always tell them, it's because me, myself, and I live there. That's why your world's small. You need to expand a little. And the devil beats you up and you just go into a survival mode. I know what I'm talking about. I know I'm talking to you. But healing is happening in your body. There are all kinds of chemical imbalances. Your brain, your chemicals in your brain, your chemicals in all of your organs, the secreting chemicals. It's causing a scenario that will actually diminish once you react to the Spirit of God and enter into the rest. There is a hope and a future for you. It's very bright. I wish I could tell you. I wish I could grab all of you on the front row and just take you with me to show you what I've seen. I know. I wish we could all go. I don't know. Maybe it'll happen someday. I'm serious because I was on the outside looking in, and I would go and sit in ministers, and I would I just want that to happen to me. I wish God would talk to me. I wish I could hear God's voice. I was in war. And what I found is that God was waiting for me to come to him on my own and offer myself to him and say, Lord, I'm broken and I need fixed. I need love. I need acceptance. I need to feel safe. I said, I want to be worth something. I want to count in this generation. And what he did was he let me visit him. He set it up so that situation was I didn't have to die. But I escaped it. But I encountered him. And when I did, he changed me. He influenced me forever. Something happened inside of me because I saw that I was like him in many ways. And this world, religion doesn't want you to ever know that. Religion will keep you in bondage. It'll keep you in a small place. And that's why Jesus was so against the Pharisees. Because they were making people stay in bondage instead of setting them free. He came to set the captives free. He came to preach the good news of the gospel. And I remember the time when the Lord told me I had no money left and I was always working extra. And he would tell me to work extra and pay somebody's rent because they were my pastor and they couldn't pay their rent. And my pastors had bald tires. Kathy said, let's just buy him some tires. Well, I needed new tires. And I was trying to get out of debt, and I was working extra. And the Lord said, no, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to work 3 days, and you're going to give all the money to your pastor. I go, you got to be kidding me. My days off, I'm going to go to work, Coke or Sprite, and apologize for the weather, right, for someone else. Be away from my wife. And he goes, yeah. And he's waiting for me to just go do it. See, because he's trying to get something out of me that needs burnout. I remember I turned in January to my assistant pastor. I had just played in that service, and it was in between services. So I just left my instrument up there, and I went out and took a break. And he came over and he said, hey, on this next, and he gives given me instruction about the song. I'm going to have you do the intro with your cello. I'm going to have you do the intro this time. And he said, thanks for what you did for me. And I almost said, you know, this is what I was going to say, but the Holy Spirit wouldn't let me say it. I said, you know, if God keeps telling me to pay off people's mortgages, I'm not going to pay my own off. I'm not going to be able to pay my own off because all the extra money I was going to put toward it. And I stopped myself, and he looked at me. I go, I'm going to finish that. And he goes, yeah, you're right. Okay, that was January of 2009. In February, our house was paid off. But in my spirit, I couldn't say what I felt like saying. And I was giving out and doing things for others, but I didn't know that it was actually freeing me up for my miracle. But I wasn't giving to get. It was more about the human character inside, the way we are built, is that we're in a stressed out world and we don't like it here because it's fallen. So we want to survive, so we want to keep stuff and store it because it's a terrible place for us to be in because we're very high level being in a really low level world. As a born again Christian, you've been restored back in your spirit, so you don't know what it's like really to fail. I mean, be honest with me. You flip out when your prayers don't get answered. You can't believe that somebody didn't get healed when you laid hands on them. Because that is the way we're made. We're made to expect God to do what he says he's going to do. Okay, with that being said, do you understand that if you would side with God and just let him unlatch you from the world, that there's coming this time where you can be in this realm all the time. Now, I don't let people knock me out of it.